we have a special guest, Al Nicoletti, and he's going to be talking about how you're going to crush probate. So first of all, before we get into Al's presentation, let's just go over ForeclosuresDaily.com. So you may already know this, but if this is the first time here for you, ForeclosuresDaily.com is the best list provider that you are going to find in the real estate investing world. And or if you're a realtor and you're looking for some new listings. So they have a nationwide reach. So whether you're in Florida or Nevada or Kansas or Idaho, you can get leads from ForeclosuresDaily.com. So they connect investors, realtors, attorneys, and first-time buyers with high-quality leads. It's expertise that you can trust because they have a commitment to excellence, and it ensures you receive the most accurate and up-to-date data available. And I think I've mentioned this a time or two before. I've been a client of Foreclosures Daily since 2018. I specifically use the pre-probate leads, and I have found that that's just my niche. That's what I like to do. Foreclosures Daily is an industry leader, they've been in business since 2004. So I think I did the math. Are we at 20 years yet? Yes, because this is 2026, right? So that would be 22 years if I'm doing my math right. So they've become the internet's top destination for detailed, timely real estate information. So how is Foreclosures Daily different from the other companies out there? Well, they have an advantage, and it's real estate focused data. So what do I mean by that? So when you get the leads, if you've ever tried another lead company, they have leads, but they don't necessarily have real estate in them. So I know one company, I won't name them, that I used in the very beginning, and I would call or mail, and people would respond, and they were like, well, they had gun collections, or they had jewelry, or they needed an estate sale, but they didn't have any real estate. Well, even though I'm a broker here in Texas, I only want to deal with investment properties. So their list always comes with real estate. And since 2018, I've never had the opportunity or never had a lead that didn't have real estate. Depending on the type of leads that you can get them daily, weekly, or monthly. So my pre-probate leads come to my dashboard every Wednesday morning when I log in. They're right there. They also have some property appraisal insight, which for me is just gold, because I don't market to $1 million properties, but I have realtor partnerships that they market to those properties. So for me, I'm looking for properties that are valued about 350 under, and the property appraisal information is right there. So they're specialized for real estate, and they prioritize delivering up-to-date targeted information to keep you ahead of the game. So what type of leads do they have? Well, they have the pre-probate, like I talked about. Tonight, Al's going to talk about probate, so they do have probate leads. Absentee owners, distressed, evictions, auction, Liz Pendez, divorce, code violations, inheritance, tax lates, and cash buyers. And I actually did, Kelsey and I did a webinar a few months ago about how we use the divorce, because we also use the divorce. And you might be wondering, where is Kelsey tonight? Well, she has 2 babies that she's taking care of, and her husband is traveling, so she is not joining us tonight. Now, how does the pricing work? Now, one good thing about Foreclosures Daily, you need to work directly with your representative. So the representative is going to let you know, it's going to be based on the area that you're in. It's going to depend on, they always have sales going on. You just missed their big year-end clearance, so to speak. Let's see, what holidays? I don't think they do anything for Valentine's Day, but I'm trying to think of maybe St. Patty's Day. That's coming up in March. So unlike the other competitors with the online pricing, they calculate prices based on your demographics and the target audience that you're going after. So pre-probate versus divorce versus foreclosures. And one of the things that you might want to know about is that, so let's take an example that we've used before, like Tennessee, Davidson County. It has a population of about 640,000, and if you compare that to LA County with almost 9.7 million. So because the California, there's going to be more names just because it's a larger populous area, right? So depending on if you're going to break that down by zip codes, or if you just say, hey, give me all of LA County. So your marketing dollars are vital to the success at Foreclosures Daily because they don't just want to sell you a list. They want you to be successful. That's why they have these trainings. That's why you get the emails and the marketing and all of the information because they want you to take these leads and make money. And that's what, as investors, that we do. So you want to make sure you're working with your skilled professional representative. They have tons of experience and can really help you focus in on the area that you might want to invest in. Now, I already said this, but basically they want you to be successful. So they're going to give you tools and resources. So my daughter and I, Kelsey, we do monthly webinars, right, on different ways we use the Foreclosures Daily leads. You are going to receive part of this marketing toolbox, right? So they're going to show you a six-step mailing campaign because when you mail, I do direct mailing, and one card, one postcard just never gets it. The follow-up is always in the money is in the follow-up, right? Because sometimes it takes like 3, 4, 5. Sometimes you can hit it out of the park with one postcard or one card. They're going to share with you some phone scripts. You can have an exclusive discount for mail rates. There's webinar trainings like we talked about. You'll be getting a book. If you're a client, you got my book, Winning Deals and Heels. And it's like my story of how I got started. So it's not just that they're a list seller. They're actually someone that's your partner in marketing and being successful with their leads. Oh, go back. Oh, sorry, Al. Okay, I'm getting ready to bring on, there we go. Skipped ahead. So we're at that portion of the presentation where I'm going to ask Al to come on board. And Al Nicoletti, I actually had the pleasure of interviewing him a couple times last year. I think one time there was a little glitch, I don't know, probably a snowstorm or something, and we weren't able to connect. And then, but he has so much information. He's based in Florida. And I took this off of his LinkedIn profile. But what I want to say about him is he's a super fun guy. He, one of the things that you can find out about him is that he serves 67 counties in Florida. And he has I guess, what would you call this? An open and shut record case. I don't know. It's like attorney lingo or whatever. And that he's closed over 300 successful cases across Florida. So he's your go-to person when you have a probate lead, and he can help you get that property closed. He also has the Al Nicoletti podcast/show, and that's live, right, Al? Every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. So without further ado, Al, I'm going to share my screen. Hold on, let me get out of here. I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to let you share. Oh, where's the button at? There's so many buttons. Hold on. Okay, Al, you should be able to share now. And I'm going to let you take it away, Al Nicoletti.
Well, Nancy, before I go to full screen, just want to say thank you so much to the Foreclosures Daily team and you guys always. I think I need to update some stats that are there. Not 300, not 300 probates. Let's try 2,500 probates. And my fastest probate I've ever done is 2 hours. So, I love it.
Okay, Al, yeah, get the, it's all about the website, right?
I gotta make sure that's there. But I'm always so happy to come on here and do the Foreclosures Daily webinar. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Al Nicoletti. I am a probate real estate attorney here in Florida. I'm only in Florida. I'm not in any other states. And I know a lot of people want to find my action figure in other states, but I'm here in Florida. But I love the probate niche, and I always love coming on Foreclosures Daily to share it with you. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my where is it? Share my screen and we'll begin. You got my contact info right there. It's at the bottom of the screen. It'll probably be right throughout the whole thing, and make sure you got my QR code. That's my QR code. So everybody take out your phones. I know everybody's grabbing their phones right now. Scan the QR code, save my contact. You never know when something comes up in the Florida market, or who knows, you never know what happens. So scan my QR code, and that's my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube channel. Find me there. Tons of content. I can entertain you for hours on probates, quiet titles, and we're about to roll out at some point a whole new slew of content. It's in the works now that my law firm has expanded. I've added on three other attorneys. We do full on curative title now in the Florida market. So there's a lot that's coming. You don't want to miss it. That's my podcast on the left, the Alan Nicoletti Show. We're gonna go to season seven. It's crazy. Season seven this year, coming up, and that's my YouTube channel. You don't want to miss it. Tons of content out there for everybody. As Nancy was saying, I'm a Florida attorney. I've been practicing for 9 years, and I have done over completed, open, shut, done 20 over 2,500 cases. And I've seen so many hypotheticals in that time frame on deals that could have worked, but didn't work because numbers didn't happen or maybe the heirs didn't get along. So we've seen things from super simple to really complicated, 8 probates, 12 probates. I mean, wild stuff. And one of the most exciting things this year is that we expanded into the curative title realm. And if anybody knows, that's like the big buzzword, the hottest trend right now, where you're getting into messy deals, buying out interest, partial interest, all that kind of crazy stuff with title. So we've really gotten that down pat in the Florida market. So you definitely want to check that out. And one thing I do in my law firm is I wait until closing for attorney's fees. So when you see a lot of this going on today, you're like, wait a second, wow, wait until closing for attorney's fees? Where do I find that, right? That's one of the biggest things we do in my law firm. Now, today we are talking about crushing probate, solving probates and curative title. That's my bonus, actually, for you all out there. I got some case studies on how that could be applicable to you when you come across these messy deals. So we're going to talk all about crushing probate for probably 90% of this. So buckle up, get ready. Now, when it comes to these deals, we're seeing more than ever this just massive influx of crazy, messy probate deals. I was just telling Nancy, I've seen more, we doubled our numbers this January for probates alone from last January. And this is, get ready for this, statistically for me and my law firm, last year, January was our slowest month. So if that's what's happening, I can't wait to see what's this year and what's every other year coming. It's all about distressed property. There are thousands of properties that are distressed, tax delinquent, code violation, pre-foreclosure, absentee, you name it. There's just tons that are out there that are just sitting, waiting, and there's the right opportunity where somebody can come along, make that offer. You got the attorney team, and then you can figure out how do we get this across the finish line. And we're seeing it with single family, land, multifamily. I mean, we just saw one property that the lady died. She owned it. She owned a house and she owned a bar. And the bar was in her name, not an LLC, not an incorporation. It was in their name individually. So when you see these, just know that this is just this massive influx of things that are going to be happening. And I always tell people, yeah, you can go hyper focus and hyper local, but there's nothing like going statewide. There's always so much opportunity. And the high end operators, they do go statewide. And the amount of properties that just constantly sit and just are waiting for people to come along and make an offer is massive. There are just, at any given time in Florida, there are thousands of properties that just sit titled in the deceased person's name. And the family, they've just been paying the taxes, sitting on it, not doing anything. And I'm not talking about like 2 years. Like there's ones that they still have been paying the taxes for 20, 30 years. And then miraculously, all of a sudden, they just want to sell the property. And it's crazy. I mean, I always tell people, I always tell the Foreclosures Daily audience, I always believe that probate is still the biggest untapped niche that's out there. It's the easily the biggest one. The most possibilities, the best stories, the best connections. It's so much. And I think we're going to see more and more and more of this. And if we're talking about numbers growing and even just in my world, it's happening all over. And this is going to keep on happening. The baby boomer generation is here. And what I mean by that is we're seeing the silver tsunami start to really hit. And where it's hitting is the baby boomers that owned property back in the 70s and 80s. They bought land, they bought little land lots, they bought houses, they've held on to it. They get to this age, they move, and then eventually they die. And sometimes they haven't even contemplated the property in their estate planning. And when they die, it becomes a probate asset. And we're starting to see that boom. And as the years go by in 2025, 2030, 2035, the numbers are going to keep going up. So when I got into my practice of law, I wanted to pick a niche, just like most of you out there that are trying to pick real estate and kind of where to go. I picked my niche because I knew there was stability and growth. I love getting into things that have stability and growth. This has stability and growth. And like this is not going away. I mean, the trajectory and the data doesn't lie. It's going up. And there's lots of baby boomers and tons of people moved from other states to Florida and to Tennessee and to Texas. I mean, I know a lot of people that are doing stuff in Texas. It's crazy. These are the stats that show the number of probate filings in the last 10, 15 years. Um, does anybody see it going down except for that like maybe tiny dip there? This isn't going anywhere. I mean, I saw a stat. I couldn't even put this on here. Polk County in Florida, there was a stat that recently came out that said litigation files are up at least 3%, which is quite significant. I mean, considering like how many filings there already are. And there was another stat that circuit civil wise, 14%. So we're seeing markets that used to be small starting to become big. So this is a niche that's really growing, and I think a lot of people want to pay attention to where this is headed. Now, everybody always asks me in the Florida market, they always say, Al, what's the best counties we should invest in? What's the best one? And you know what my answer is? All of them. All of them. Yeah, we're going to run into some counties that are a little bit more difficult to deal with. But if a deal is a deal and it makes sense and people want to sell and the money's there, why aren't you going? Right? Do we deal with some more difficulties in maybe Pinellas and Palm Beach and Brevard and maybe it's a little bit different systems there? Okay. But at the end of the day, if the deal makes sense, it doesn't matter where you go. There's a lot of opportunity on the table. So it doesn't matter. Northeast Florida, you go to Pinellas, go to Brevard, go to Palm Beach, go to Miami, go to Polk. I mean, follow where people are also going and moving to, and where a lot of the buildings happening. Like for a while, Marion County, Marion's still one of the hotter places. But I always tell people when you look at maps, you got to think bigger. A lot of opportunity, tons of opportunity there. Now, let's take a moment to break down the process really simply. And I think a lot of people read things on books and they see things online and they get this idea that probate is this whole big thing. 80% of the time, we are not dealing with some massive thing. I can't speak to California. I don't know sometimes what's going on over there. But what I can speak to is processes, at least here in Florida. A lot of people think that it's complicated, it takes forever. I'm here to tell you it can be very simplified when it's broken down. Now, you do not have to be an expert to get into this game. You don't have to know really anything about it. The only thing you need to know is focus on your real estate transaction and connect with the right legal expert. And together, plus the title company, together, that makes a transaction work and you can start making it hum. Now, people focus on all these terms like, wait, do we need to do a summary? Do we need to do a formal? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what you're focused on is, can we get the deal done? Are we focused on getting the deal? Who do we need under contract? Can this get closed across the finish line? If we're focused on all these ideas and words and stuff, we're focused on the red herrings. What we need to focus on is get the deal done. Who goes on the contract? Who do we need for title? How do we do the probate? How? Let's figure this out. You don't have to know the technical aspects. And I'm just seeing it just from my experience over and over. I mean, this is the perfect platform for me to tell you this. Like I see so many people struggle when they want to know all the things with the newspaper and this and the countings. Focus on the deal. That's the biggest picture. Now the what and the why. Let's start with the what. Somebody owned property. The property is in their name. They die. To get it out of that person's name, we are going through the process of probate. What is probate? The heirs hire the attorney. The attorney prepares all the paperwork. We put the name of the heirs. We put the property address. We put all the information on the paperwork. We send it to them. They sign it. We file it in court. We get a case assigned. And then eventually we submit the orders to court. When we get the court orders back, judge signs, probate's done. We send it to the title company. You can move to closing. So what did we just do? We just moved the title out of that person's name to who the heirs are. The end. It's the distribution of the assets and the transfer of title. We're moving it from the deceased to the heirs, and it's all the formal paperwork. At the end of the day, we in Florida are a judicial state. We have to do probate. Now, I know states like Texas do the affidavit of heirs. I know there's other states like Tennessee that's different. There's every state's different. But at the end of the day, we're in a judicial state, meaning we have to do probate. And the biggest thing is title insurance. If title insurance is saying it, we got to do probate. And in Florida, they tell us we need to do probate when somebody owns that property and they die. And it becomes a huge thing. That's the why. The why becomes that Florida says so and title insurance says so. So when an heir goes, yeah, but why do we need to do probate? Because we have to. The state of the law says we do, and title insurance says we need to. So this is some of the stuff you got to know. And anytime we get probate, it always starts at the root source. The root source is always the deed, always starts at the title. Don't get confused when they say, oh, I got the will, I got the will. We're not starting at the will. We're starting at who owned the property, who's on the title to the property. If somebody on the property is dead, we're doing probate. Now, it could be 8 people on the title, and if 3 are dead, we're doing 3 probates. If all 8 people are dead, we could be doing 8 probates. I'm sure not a lot of people want to be doing 8 probates, but that's what it can get to. And we have to do it because we got to get it out of their name. It always starts with the deed. So one thing I recommend people doing is get used to getting into the property appraiser. Get your hands dirty. Understand like how to pull deeds. Go on the property appraiser. Sleuth around and do some research. That's a big thing to do. Now, another thing that you want to learn about too when it comes to probate is some of the deed language. Now, the most popular one that we see with probate is tenants in common, equal undivided interest on the property. Somebody owned the property, they died, we're doing a probate for them. Oh, the other person died, we're doing a probate for them. It's equal undivided interests. And so we see sometimes tenants in common. Sometimes we see joint tenants with rights of survivorship. I've always said survival of the fittest. Whoever lives the longest gets title to the property. But then if that person dies, now we're doing probate. See, that could be added language to the deed that can help eliminate. So if you have 8 people on title and you put the joint tenants with rights of survivorship and 7 people die, the last one wins. But then if they die, it needs probate. You may have a life estate deed. Somebody's on the title with a life estate. They die, goes to the remainderman. You don't need probate. But if they die, the remainderman die, now you could be doing probate. And sometimes property's titled in a trust. Trusts avoid probate, but stick around for the end of the webinar where I have my bonus content on Foreclosures Daily with Curative Title, and you're going to see how sometimes trust can be messy things in real estate as well. It's crazy. We had a deal the other day where there was a husband and wife. They bought the property as single and single. And then they got married and they never retitled the property. She died, he died. And so the heirs are like, "Oh, perfect. The dad side goes, "Oh, we got all the property." And it's really crazy in our title world. You got to be careful with this stuff. Because in our title world in Florida, when you have that happen and they've never retitled it when they bought it as single, title insurance goes probate for one, probate for the other. And some people are get blown away by that. I could go on stories about scenarios and everybody would be just checking their deed all night long. But there's a lot of scenarios that happen with this stuff. You got to understand what deed language is and understand that it starts at the title. Now, my record times on getting probates done can be super fast. How many people on the webinar have heard? Drop a comment. Let's see the comments and the fire emojis. How many people on here have heard that probate takes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 2 years, right? I bet a lot of people. I bet a ton of people. In my world, we can do these in a matter of 4 to 8 weeks, sometimes less. Sometimes less. We just did a probate in 24 hours the other day. Not all results are the same. You got to have everything independently evaluated. But the point is that these things can be done fast. And what does that mean for you? My favorite niche is doing things fast. My favorite niche is getting into things being in and out. That's my style, in and out. And so probate and I jam that way because we can do these things really fast. We've done things in Clay County in a week. We've done it in a day. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you know that it can happen fast. But the average turnaround is 4 to 8 weeks. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe we're in a different county. Maybe it's the holiday time. But these things can be done fast. Now, whenever you get a case, sometimes there's a will. When you're talking to the seller, always make sure you find out where's the original ink will. Copies are presumed to be revoked and destroyed. So you gotta find the original will, original ink, the one that was signed, pressed, indented, it's on the other side. Because PDFs aren't counting, photocopies aren't counting. And the importance of a will is that the will says who gets what. Maybe Sally got the house and Bobby didn't. And Bobby got the land or the watch. Or maybe they did a will and it left everything to a trust, which is called a pour-over will. So you never know. Sometimes you run into these situations. The will is very, very important because it could tell you as the investor or realtor who the seller is, who's on the listing, who's buying it. It's a vital document in our checklist. So if there's a will, where is it? And not this, I thought I saw it and I'm pretty sure he had it. No, where is it? I want to see it. It's gotta be somewhere. Now, if there's no will, I heard a stat a long time ago that 95% of people don't have an estate plan. That was a stat a long time ago. I don't know what the exact stat is now, but if that still stands, that's crazy. But a lot of people don't have an estate plan and they don't have a will. Now, if there's no will, it doesn't mean that it's harder or worse or anything. Sometimes it can be easier without a will. Sometimes it can. It can actually make things a little smoother because everybody's getting something like the end, like no matter what. But in Florida, we have something called the intestate laws, where it says exactly who's getting what. And Florida creates this intestate succession for you. It creates this basic intestate chain. And we have to review the whole thing. We have to analyze the whole thing to figure out who's next in the list. Now, I think the biggest thing right now, when I see a hot trend tip in our probate space, I think the hottest thing right now that you can do as an investor is understand how to build out family trees, whether it's through ancestry.com or any other method that you have, because sometimes it's not as easy as I found the spouse and the kids. Sometimes it's I gotta find the aunts, uncles, and cousins, and maybe even second cousins. And so the people that are going to differentiate themselves in this game, in this niche, are the ones that understand how to build out family trees. So if you can learn how to build out or understand like who comes in the first order, because you need to know if that person's there, and if they're not, move on, move on. Like, are they alive or not? So anytime we have these, we always start with a will, no will, surviving spouse. If no, how many kids ever, ever, ever? Not surviving, not I'm the last of the Mohicans, ever. And if you have none, go to parents alive at time of death. If none, brothers, sisters, half brothers ever. Nieces, nephews. aunts, uncles. And as you can see, this line just goes up and out and down and up. I'm not doing the probate Macarena tonight, but I probably could. But if you can learn how to do this, if you can learn that there's a certain pattern of who you need to find, you're already going to be and stand out and change the game already. Telling you, hottest trend we're seeing right now. And sometimes people go, "Oh, Al, I got this deal." Actually, I haven't had this happen in a while. I think since the whole curative thing started, I think not a lot of people have asked this question in a while. But I used to have it where they'll come to me and say, "Hey, Al, we got a deal, and there's no heirs. There's nobody." You know my response? There's always somebody. Because here's the thing. If you go down that whole line and there's really nobody, there's statutes out there that'll say, now you got to go down the predeceased spouse's line and go down their entire probate Macarena. And you have to try to find somebody and try to look around and see if there's anybody. And better believe that there's usually somebody, maybe second cousins, first cousins. You'd be surprised. Like there's a lot that's out there. Just when you think that there's nobody, there's usually somebody. And so sometimes you got to have a private investigator. You gotta track people down. I mean, it just is what it is. And in our world of probate, people always ask me, say, "Hey, Al, what's the kind of contract we should use?" Look, I see people use the FAR bar contract, the Florida bar contract. I see people make up their own contracts. At the end of the day, that is something that you need to get set before you do any of this. But at the end of the day, I've never seen a specific probate real estate contract. At the end of the day, it's a real estate contract. And what you do is you get all the heirs to sign the contract. All of them. All heirs sign the contract. And a suggestion I've made to people over time is if you get these deals, you want to make sure that you leave enough time for closing because you don't want to do 30-day closes. You want to make sure you leave enough time. So extend that closing period out, or you could say closing is subject to probate court orders. That way you're not closing until the court orders come in. And so you want to leave yourself time. You don't want to be chasing addendum after addendum after addendum over and over. You don't want to be doing that. So you want to make sure you're getting all these ducks in a row. Now, one of my favorite documents that I love to see whenever an investor or realtor gets a deal is the title commitment. If you haven't formed a relationship with the title company, that's the first thing you do in the morning when you wake up. Because if you're going to get into probate deals, and you're going to get into messy deals, you need to find your favorite title company and hold on to them. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones closing the deal with their underwriter, and they have the documents to show you what is needed to close the deal. I want to see that document. I want to see the title commitment because at the end of the day, I want to know what does it take to close the deal. A title commitment is a forensic analysis of documentation that breaks down what is needed to close the deal. So if you're getting into this game, you got to find out the title commitment, and we got to make sure that it gets to the right person because we got to make sure we know what we're doing and getting into. A bonus for everybody here, if you get a deal with minors, I'll show an example in a bit. With minors, just know there are certain thresholds. And if you don't meet that threshold, we're going to be doing a guardianship. And guardianship's a whole other ballgame. And yeah, in our office, we do that now. But guardianships are a whole other thing. And when you get minors involved, things get very stringent. The court is very strict when it comes to minor situations. So we'll give you an example of what happens there. But people always ask me, Al, what happens when we get minors and what do we do? Well, that's got to be really analyzed based on numbers, based on age, where the parent is, all that kind of stuff. And if you get a deal where there's a power of attorney, that power of attorney has to be reviewed by the title underwriter. So we get these people that'll say, I got a POA for somebody. Okay. Where is it? Who has it? I want to see the document. I want to know that it's in existence. Also, I want to make sure that if you're going to use that document to close your deal, you don't do anything else except you bring that power of attorney to the title company, to the underwriter, and you make sure that that power of attorney is authorized for closing purposes. If you don't do that, you're wasting time. Period. Power of attorneys are one of those documents you got to be really careful with. And you got to make sure you get that to the title company so they approve it and get their approval. Okay, now if they say yes, okay, great. Now we can use that for the deal with those sellers or whatever it is. And usually the most used for the most popular uses for a POA, they are overseas, they're in prison, they're not competent. You have a number of them. So sometimes we'll run into that. Now, just as some bonuses, what are the top probate lead sources we're seeing in 2026? The hot lead sources, oh my gosh. I mean, they got to be the tax delinquencies, the ones that are going up for tax deed auction, the ones that are going up for foreclosure auction, code violation, fire damage, water, utilities, vacant homes. Tax delinquencies and code violations are probably the most popular. But there's always look, anything distressed, it's not going to be blinking probate, right? The ones that are blinking probate are the ones that like Foreclosures Daily has where it's filed in court and stuff like that. And those could be great too. I mean, there's a lot of people that have gone after those as well and had great success. Things that I'm seeing too, like the pre-probates or the code violations, right? The Liz Pendens ones, those can be gold mines too. A lot of opportunity in those leads as well. A lot of people leave those off the table. What are the hottest markets in 2026? Okay, well, first of all, I think every market's hot, right? But if you really ask me, I think Polk County's been hot. I think Marion's been hot. Lee has been hot. Let's see, Hillsborough is always busy. Orange County's always busy. Panhandle's heating up a little bit. And then you got Collier. And look, at the end of the day, like it's a matter of like, where do you want to go? Where are your buyers at? What's your model? What's your price point? I think you can't go wrong because Florida's always going to be a hot market. Florida's always going to be hot. People are always going to be moving here. There's always going to be building, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity. But a lot of people are going to these counties now. A lot of people are building. A lot of building going on in the middle of the state. And I gotta say, I can't move on from the slide. Duval, Nassau, Clay, St. John's, Putnam, a lot of opportunity up in that area. Jacksonville's always heating up, so a lot of people love that area. A shout out to my Jacksonville people. So this is definitely a hot market. Top marketing channels that I've seen, a lot of people love the cold calling, the direct mail. Direct mail is probably the most popular with landowners, and people are still doing sticky notes and cards and bulk mailing campaigns. At the end of the day, you got to keep track of all this stuff because sometimes you do a cold call and then you can follow up if they don't answer, and then you can do a letter and then you can do another call again. Sometimes they'll get back with you because they'll recognize who you are in those circumstances. So a lot of marketing channels that are out there, and I love probate because it's a great opportunity. We see people have stories with spreads of 20 grand, 50 grand, 150 grand. They're deals that can be easy to solve. You're surrounded by experts. You got creative title companies. I mean, these stories can last a lifetime. I still have investors that will come up to me. They'll see me at an event, a live event, and they'll say, man, you helped me with that deal back in 2020. That was crazy. And they tell me the whole story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I do remember that one. So, what we're all doing out there is helping people. It's what it's all about. This whole thing with probate and curative is all about helping people, solving problems, helping community, and these experiences help others get through other deals like this. And it's all about speed, efficiency, and getting the whole thing done quickly. Now, I want to make sure I got time for this because the case studies is where the magic is. Like this, the knowledge of all of this is great, and I don't know, maybe for some people it's sipping water from a fire hydrant, but at the end of the day, you got to see this in action. Like some of the case studies are actually happening and the real results that are happening. So just so you know what's coming, I'm going to show you some probates, but then I'm going to get into some curative title stuff that we've been doing in the law firm, so we can show you what's really happening out there for a lot of people. Now, first one, we got to start with probate, right? That's the best one. Now, What's happening? A lot of people hear probate and they go, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get into it. But when people start hearing that, wait a second, we can do this in 3 weeks, we can make this kind of money, we only need these three heirs. We had this one investor that wouldn't touch probate ever, wouldn't do it. And he picked up his first deal, first probate deal. And he heard about me, he called me, and he said, "Hey Al, I got this deal. Um, it's gonna need to go through probate. I got this one guy on contract, and we're ready to move forward." I said, "Great. Here's my probate checklist. Also, I have a checklist. If you email me and you want the checklist, happy to send it to you, or I can give it to Nancy, and Nancy will have the checklist." So I gave him the checklist. Checklist comes back. They say, "Hey Al, let's have the conference call." So we had the conference call. I do my deep dive, and I said, "Hey," and this is Duval County. I said, "How are you related to the deceased? How are you related to the title owner?" And they said, "Well, I'm the son." I said, "Any will? No will. Any spouse? No spouse. How many children ever?" They said three. I said, "Great, perfect. Where are they?" "They're alive. They're around. One's in Oregon, one's in Ohio." I said, "Great." I said to the investor, "Great. Come back with everybody on contract and let's rock and roll with this because we can get this done." Because he's got to get everybody under contract and we got to do the probate. Comes back in 3 weeks, has them all signed. We file the probate, we get all the paperwork signed. We get this probate done in 3 weeks. One deal, an assignment over 25K. So people before would never want to get into this, never want to touch this. These are the deals that are happening that a lot of people don't want to get into. They got Lee County, another, like I said, hot market. Lee County, it's been hot for a long time. There's people have been flipping there forever. Lee County, another one. Investor had a deal. He said, "Hey Al, I heard your webinar, I heard your video, get all the heirs." We found out there was three heirs, one probate. They reached out, they got in touch with me. I think they got this off a tax delinquent list. And I had the console call. I talked to them. I said, "Hey, how are you related? Any will, no will, spouse, no spouse, three kids, ever. That's it. One probate." They got the paperwork in. We filed this in Lee County like on a Friday, and a week later, we got the court orders. Done. Open, shut, done. This was a deal they made over 25K. We had another one where it gets a little bit more complicated, where there were four heirs. We had three on board, but we couldn't find the other one. And the way that this property was, the lady didn't live there, so we could get a little creative when we kind of had that deal because it was not her homestead. And so we did some due diligence. We had to do some affidavits, but we were able to find a way that we could get the three heirs to get the probate started. The investor worked on the comps, and we worked on comparative market analyses. And I mean, I got the testimony from her, and we filed it in court, and we got them the property 100%. And you're probably asking, well, what happened with the last one, the one that didn't sign? Well, we served them. They didn't respond. And eventually what we did is we deposited their money in unclaimed property. That's it. Done. Finished. And this took about 2 to 3 months, and they made a rip of 80K. So, sometimes it gets really, really crazy, and it's about being really creative on, can we do it? How do we do it? We had another one, and I know a lot of investors see this. This is common. A lot of investors see this, and as soon as they see it, they go, "Hey, Al, we got something." So this one, the investor went under contract with a couple of the heirs. They brought it to the title company. The title company, this was a land lead list. The title company came back and said, there's already a probate open. It needs to be completed. And so the investor immediately was like, "Oh my gosh, Al, what do we do? How do we get this done?" So I did my deep dive, I did my analysis, I did my research. I opened up the case and I looked at the case, and an attorney had filed it back in like 2015, and it was a lot of pleadings, a lot of things filed, and it was stuck. It got stuck. And so whenever I see that, I'm like, I wonder, what do we got to do? How do we do it? So I looked and I found there was a will, and in the will left everything to a trust. And I kind of asked like the question of the family, and I asked a couple other questions, and I said, is there a way that we can kind of like get around this whole thing and not even do the trust? Is there a possible way? Well, when I did my analysis, we found out that the sole heir ended up the true heir ended up being an 18-year-old. Well, when everybody went back to the 18-year-old and said, "Hey, you're about to make a boatload of cash," they could have signed any faster. And so we were able to maneuver it. We were able to get it done. We bypassed everything, and they made some really good money off this one property. We've had another one. This is a great one. Drop a comment if you've ever had a deal where the heir says, "I want to sell, and my siblings want nothing to do with the property." Drop a comment. How many have ever had that? Oh, they want nothing to do with this. They'll sign off. They'll sign off on whatever. Yeah, anytime I hear that, I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's actually see that happen. I want to see it. Well, we actually had a deal the brother. He said, I have a sister. At first he wasn't really disclosing it, but he eventually did. He has a sister and she wants nothing to do with it. And I was like, okay, like what does that mean? He goes, well, she'll sign whatever's needed to get this deal done. She'll do whatever. So we sent over the documents to her. And we just said, you know what? Let's just take a chance. We didn't talk to her. We couldn't even get communication with her. We just had a mailing address. 3 weeks later, we got the deed and all the stuff in the mail that she signed. And it moved it all back over to him. So we had to get creative. We had to use some solutions, and we did. And at first, it was a little difficult to deal with, but when we figured it out, it solved the big problem because he wasn't selling with her. He wanted her off, and she agreed and she did it. Now, does that happen all the time? No, it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, and it sure happened here. We had another one where there was some partial interest. Two wanted to sell, two didn't. How many here get deals where one wants to sell and the other doesn't want to sell, and maybe that one that wants to sell you their interest. We're seeing a lot of that right now. And we had one where there's a lot of investors that want to do that and get into the partial interest game. That happens a lot in Texas, happens in Florida. And so they had this deal. I think it was a code violation or a tax delinquent list. And we were able to get two heirs on board. We served the other two. It took about 60 to 90 days. We got the probate back, probate done. They bought out the 50%, and they eventually worked on negotiating with the other two. And if it didn't work, they would do a partition action. So there's a lot to digest when it comes to opportunities and things that can happen in these deals. We've seen things from 7 probates. There was one deal that had 7. People are like, wait, wait, wait. How did you get 7 probates? Well, if you start at the title owner and somebody dies after them, now we got another probate. And if somebody dies after them, we got another probate and then another probate. And so we had one where there were 7 probates, and the investor had 11 of them locked up under contract, and one was resisting. Eventually, they bought out the 11 heirs, and I think they're still to this day negotiating with the other one. But sometimes you get these messy deals where the house has been sitting around forever. And somebody needs to come provide a solution to the family to say, hey, I got an opportunity, I got an option for you. So that was a crazy one. We had one, this is the guardianship. We had one where the guy died and he had no will. He was never married. And when I asked them on the call, I said, how many kids ever? And they said 3. And I was like, oh, perfect. All right, we're good. We can get this done. And then they were like, well, there's one problem. They're all minors. And I was like, okay, what's the purchase price? And the purchase price was over $200,000. When that happens and minors get more than 15K, we have to do a guardianship. So not only did we do a probate, but we had to do 3 guardianships. 3 guardianships. And when we were doing that, of course, we waited until closing for payment on everything. But in a guardianship, those are heavily scrutinized. you have to make sure you get all your ducks in a row because the judge has to approve the sale. And we did. We figured it all out and only needed one probate. But you know how many people wouldn't ever touch this? Would never do it? I'm here to tell people I love this stuff. We dig it all day. I mean, this is every day for us. We see this messy is my language. Like I see it every day. So that was another one. We had another one in uh uh Osceola. And this was the investor's first deal. First ever deal was a probate deal. Not only was it a probate deal, it was a triple probate deal. These heirs hadn't talked in like 30 years. And they were talking for the first time because of this one deal to get it done. It was crazy. And there's a whole story on my show, on the Alan Nicoletti show. But the heirs finally figured out this is what we got to do. This is how we got to do it. John DeWong, he got it done. It was crazy. I mean, go see that story. It was a wild story. He made so much money off two lots on a double close. Crazy. So people are doing really well. Now, some of the bonus stuff for curative title, while I got some time, some people in this community and that are watching or watch later, you're gonna run into a deal where one wants to sell and the other doesn't want to sell. In our Florida law, if one wants to sell and the other doesn't want to sell, the one that wants to sell can force the sale of the property and move it to a public auction or private listing. So think about how that works. You got 5 people on title, 3 want to sell, 2 don't. There's possibilities with those kinds of deals. So there's a lot of things that are out there that happen with partition. We saw one where in a partition, there were 3 people on title, and the investor bought out one of the people. And what they did was they got with our law firm and we rep them and we sued and filed a partition against the other co-owners. And eventually, when we sold, when we served them, one of them actually came to the table and said, "Yeah, we're ready to sell too." So eventually, they got 2/3, and then eventually the other one didn't respond. And so, what do you do in a partition? The judge has no choice. You can't cut the house with the chainsaw. You can, but that's not how it goes. Eventually, it went up for a realtor listing. So a realtor got appointed for it. So my point in this is I know people are going to find deals where this can happen. And in our Florida world, this is a possibility. Same thing in this property, eventually, but this one went to auction. So it can go to private listing or it can go to public auction. So these are curative deals that are out there that happen. Quiet title. Quiet title can be a very useful legal mechanism that can be used to clear the back chain of title. I always tell people probate is like the gateway. You get into probate, this is the kind of stuff you get into. The probate's the gateway into our world of all this stuff. And this is the hottest trend right now. All of this stuff, all this weird stuff. Hairy, messy, crazy, different, bizarre. So quiet title, the back chain of titles messed up. Improper legal descriptions, wild deeds, fraudulent deeds. We're seeing all over. We had this one deal. Investor thought he had the property, he bought it from somebody. He got a warranty deed. Comes to find out he was not the only owner. There was an estate that the heirs weren't cooperative with. There was a trust that nobody knew about, and everybody had to get sued. And on this one, this one was a $70,000 spread on this deal. So sometimes I always pick probate first over everything else. But sometimes these are necessary mechanisms that, if allowed by a title insurance underwriter, could be really helpful in deals. But this was a wild one. We had a deal where there was a wild fraudulent deed, and lady inherited property. She moved out of the state. Investor drove by the house, was interested in buying the house. They come to find out there were tenants in the property. He called the lady and said, "You have tenants in the property." She said, "What tenants?" Come to find out, there were people going around recording these fraudulent deeds and making it look like a long lost relative deeded it to these people. And we had to do a quiet title, and we served everybody. Eventually, we got it, and it was a crazy goose chase for 6 months. But some of these things happen. These are messy, messy deals. We have trust administration. What is that? Properties titled in a trust, so you don't need probate, but the trust is lost. The trust, the trustee cannot be found, doesn't want to serve. There's no beneficiaries. What do? We've had deals where the person that died was the only trustee. There was nobody else named. So nobody knew what to do. And we had to appoint a trustee. We had to get involved in this and jump in the case. We had another one where we had to unwind the trust and reconstruct the trust because the trust was lost. So I know there's people that will watch this now, watch this later. There are deals that are left on the table where the property's titled in a trust. We have one right now. It's $500,000. There's titled in a trust. Nobody, they know where the trust is, but it doesn't name a trustee, and there's no beneficiaries. There are people in here that come across these deals. Don't leave them on the table. Get an expert to review these. Get a lawyer to review these. We do this kind of stuff in Florida all the time. We handle things with squatters too. We had one recently that was absolutely wild where the guy basically said because he was helping pay the mortgage, he had some kind of beneficial interest on the property. Yes, there was a squatter that was fighting. Yeah, not just leaving, fighting. Crazy stuff. And again, I wait until closing to get paid for attorney's fees. So that's my biggest thing. In Florida, we will wait until closing for attorney's fees. That's my probate checklist. You definitely want to screenshot that. So when you get a probate case, now you know what you're looking for: property address, death certificate, will, title commitment, a copy of the deed. Those are helpful things. If you're in the Florida market, that's my email address. Got it. Now you have my email address. And just my final message for everybody: some of the messiest deals have the best spread. I always believe probate is the best niche in real estate. The best time to start is now. And I believe everybody, if you want to get into this game, it's the perfect time. I'm in the Florida market. Scan my QR code. You got it right there. And as I always say, thank you so much to the Foreclosures Daily team. Thank you, Nancy, Angela, Joe, Steve. It's like everybody that's out there in the foreclosures team. Y'all are wonderful. Get with them if you're looking for these leads. And just want to say thank you. And Nancy, it's all yours.
Okay, Al, thank you so much. I mean, I'm just like, I'm writing notes. I'm like, okay, I noticed some people had their AI on there, but what great information. So I am going to I'm going to pull up, I'm going to share my screen one more time here. I was working on some stuff just to give people an opportunity if they want to, oh my goodness, what is happening? There we go. Okay, we're going to do Q&A now. And for those of you who don't know, this is a QR code to Nancy's free masterclass about, should you even be in real estate investing? So, but before we get to that, okay, where are my little buttons here? We want to get to some of the Q&As. Now, one question that I can just let everybody know that yes, the replay will go out probably tomorrow, the next day, but it always goes out. Some of the questions, well, Al, there was just a lot of comments like, yay, I'm working in wholesale and acquiring quite a lot of probate, because I see that too here, probate. It can take a long time, but you know what? I always say the money is in the follow-up on probate. One question, somebody said you're based in Florida. You already told them that. They want to know about Brevard County. Do you do that county?
Yeah, every county, all
Every
66
county.
counties.
Oh, okay. Okay, Lisa asks, is Florida oversaturated with investors or is there always lost opportunity? Lots. I think she meant a lot.
It's what you make of it. There's opportunity everywhere. It's what you make of it. There's a lot of deals that are distressed that need somebody to come in and help them, and there's always opportunity.
Okay, and then Brandon wanted to know, he's in Colorado and he wanted to know if you knew of any attorneys out in Colorado. Should he just email you about that?
Yes. Email me and I got someone for you.
Okay,
I
perfect.
don't know every state. I don't know every state, but
He's
I
in
know.
the Denver market, so yeah,
Yeah,
you probably know somebody, or you probably know somebody that knows somebody, right?
yeah.
James asked, does Foreclosures Daily have state law for each type of investment that the company provides information for? So I think if I'm understanding the question, like Texas, is Texas different than Florida? Is Florida different from Nevada? And so, yeah, each state has their own thing. There might be some similarities, but yeah, there's differences between them.
Oh
So, like
yeah.
in Texas, I know we've talked about this before, Al. In Texas, that's why I like pre-probate because you can buy and sell properties without going through probate. Yay! So the advantage to a family that they all agree, right, is that they don't have to pay for probate. So that's the advantage. But I know you can't do that in Florida, correct? Everybody has to go through probate.
Yeah, you got to go through probate in Florida. You're not getting around it.
What is the typical legal fees for doing a probate deal?
That's something we break down depending on what we're getting into. So if somebody's got a case, we always take a look at it before we start quoting and getting into that.
Now, somebody also said, what part of Florida is your office in? I think you said that.
Every part,
Every
every,
part. He's,
every
yeah,
part.
he's
I mean,
everywhere. He's
I'm
everywhere.
everywhere.
And then somebody asked about Harris County in Houston, but what you should do is you should email Al, and he's got someone that he can connect you to in Houston, I'm pretty sure. What's the email? They want your email again. So it was Al at alnicoletti.com. Am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you nailed it,
Oh,
Nancy.
okay. Somebody else is asking about Washington State. So you guys just email Al and tell him where you're at, and he will let you know if he's got someone for you. Do I need to have a contract ready when speaking with the heir? Do I need to have a
I mean, you can have something like it ready. I think at the end of the day, you need to hear the whole family story before you start going into the contract part. But yeah, I mean, at some point, you got to have that thing ready. Got to have it
because I mean, just in Texas, you have to know who the actual seller is because it might not be the deceased. It might be the estate or somebody that's been assigned or something, right? So,
yeah, there's a lot of different things that it can go. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
you got to look at that.
All right, and then Angela's question is: does the death certificate get filed where you die or where you live? I think she means where the property is. Do you think?
Well, I think, it probably is more like where's the probate get filed, right? So the probate is filed where the person resided,
Mm,
right? And if they lived out of the state of Florida, the probate gets filed in the county where the property is located.
mm.
So that's ultimately where it is. So if they resided in Hillsborough but they died in Polk, the probate gets filed in Hillsborough. If
Yes.
they resided in Oregon but the properties in Hillsborough, our probate for Florida is in Hillsborough.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so if you guys have additional questions, reach out to Al, and you can follow him on Instagram. Check out his podcast show Wednesday at 9 a.m. Are you on Spotify and Apple and all of that?
Yep,
YouTube?
9 p.m. Wednesdays that we go
Oh,
live
9
every.
p.m. I was giving it to him at a.m.
If I did AM, it'd be crazy.
Well, I want to thank you, Al, so much for coming on tonight. I really enjoyed it. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Everyone, thank you for watching tonight, the Foreclosures Daily webinar. I will be back. Kelsey and I will be back on March 17th, and we did verify that is St. Patty's Day. So we may or may not have green beer in front of us. I'm just, or maybe it'll be to the side. But thanks again, Al. Everyone stay safe, warm, and talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Foreclosures Daily.
Bye bye.